joining us for this very important conversation. So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. And quickly before we jump in, I'm super excited, so I really want to jump in and get this over with. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So we will record this and we'll share the recording as well as a recap with links and resources that will be shared today because we've got a lot of cool people doing a lot of cool things. So we'll make sure to dump all of that for you in an easy, accessible way. Please ask questions in the chat. And we're going to try to go through and answer them as we have time and bandwidth during the conversation. But we're also going to have a little bit of time at the end, some dedicated space for folks to type questions. And so please engage with us. But yeah, I'm just so excited about this event. We're really living in a moment that demands a different kind of approach to design, not just in our buildings and our spaces, right? But in our society. We're seeing a lot going on right now. And so this event is kind of exploring this matriarchal shift, if you will, and how it relates to biophilic design in practice. So we're going to explore how each of our work kind of embodies this transition from this extractive hierarchical model towards more of like a stewardship, reciprocity, interconnectedness. And we're going to explore how we as women bring a very unique capacity for creating nurturing ecosystems. We're often told that, this professional landscape is one of competition, but look at this room. We are collective. We're demonstrating that community is the most powerful technology we have. It's deeply powerful when you find a group of people who share similar values and a shared intent to bring restoration into the world. And I have a very unique story of meeting each one of these ladies today. It's just very special to me. And so we're here to explore that intersection of the matriarchal approach and biophilia. And when we look at living systems, right, the most resilient ecosystems are not defined by competition, but interdependence. And they thrive, through the butterfly effect, where these small localized acts ripple through and create change. And this is the essence of our approach that we're exploring today. We're not separate from the designs that and the systems that we create. We're a part of them. And we are the living system as well. So I'm really excited to lift the voices of women who are bridging this gap and talking about this restorative justice and new future for our planet and ourselves. And I'm really honored to be joined by visionary leaders who embody this shift and women who are redefining what it means to lead and to teach and to build in this era that desperately need this wisdom of Mother Nature. And yeah, there's just something very powerful, in a feeling that we're not working in isolation and we're part of a broader, wider movement of women supporting one another and amplifying each other's work and helping to bring biophilic design, in a more collaborative, generous, life-centered way. Anyway, off my pedestal. I'm going to introduce myself quickly, and then I want everyone to introduce themselves on the call today. I created the Biophilic design community here on LinkedIn, so thanks for joining. About a decade ago, when I was in architecture school, I was seeking a way to connect with like-minded people and to showcase how we can integrate nature into our environments at any context, scale, budget, climate, to give hope for a better future. And I also created an introduction to Biophilic design course. So, ladies, if someone could kick us off.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. That's okay.
I'll just quickly go. I'm older than you, so I can do that. So I'm Vanessa Champion. Those of you who might know me anyway, I'm the founder and editor of the Journal of Biophilic Design. We basically bridge the gap between research and practice. We publish case studies, we lobby government, we campaign for biophilic design from the smallest child's bedroom right through to the largest civic design for the physical and mental health of people and planet. We're going to have a 3-day conference with Future Build next year, which is going to be very exciting. We're doing roundtables for healthcare, and we're going to launch some awards as well at Future Build. So please, everybody, get involved. But as we've got a podcast series as well, I nearly forgot that, which now reaches nearly 40,000 globally, and we launched in Milan and also in Australia. So yeah, it's a global movement. So it's uniting everyone's voices. So thank you, and thank you so much, Alexandra, for joining us. And I'm honoured to be on the panel with everybody here. So with these wonderful women. So thank you.
Thank you, Ness. Thank you, Ness, for that introduction, and also Alexandra for creating this amazing space. I have my Biophilic girls with me, and I'm very, very happy to be amongst all of you. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Nuria Munoz Arce. I'm the founder of Habitarmonia Academy and Ecosystem, and co-organizer of the Mind Body Space Symposium. I'm a designer, a mentor, educator, and system thinker, and mainly. And I often describe my role as a weaver or grandma spider for those who follow ancient wisdom. So I bring people, I bring ideas and different ways of knowing together. So from science to embodied wisdom, nature, ancient wisdom, and regenerative thinking to help a larger pattern emerge. That's the purpose. And to me, design is not much about beauty, creating beautiful spaces. It's a way of creating the conditions for healing, for connection, for well-being, and for flourishing, both within ourselves and for in the living world that we are right now. So yeah, thank you. And I will leave it now to my friend Nicole.
Hi, and I'm Nicole Cronin with the Biophilic Design Institute. And first, just thank you to all of these women who have been a support to me over the years. I just feel so lucky that I've gotten to know all of you. It's really an amazing community, as Alexandra mentioned, and I tell people that who come to my course, which is the Biophilic Design Certification Program, or just Biophilic Design. Like once you come here, you found a community, and it really feels like that. Um, I find people all the time reach out and are interested in biophilic design, but I think what we're really all seeking is this community of people who care about similar things. My background is also in the commercial interior design world, and I have my Well AP. I'm on one of the Well advisory boards. Um, I just I'm also a forest therapy guide, which I'll probably talk a little bit more about later. But nature connection and connecting to each other through nature is a big part of what I do. Um, it's an amazing practice that, in and of itself, helps us build relationship with ourselves and with each other. So, thank you.
Beautiful. I love it. And you all introduce yourself so well. That's why I love to let people introduce themselves. Okay, let's get into it. So let's shift our focus a little bit to the very like deeply personal and emotional side of biophilia, right? So I wanna hear your stories. I would love to hear how you connect with nature, how you came to find biophilia, and how that's shaped your approach to biophilic design in your work. I just find everyone's stories of their homecoming to finding biophilia so unique and interesting. So if any of those questions in there spark your interest, yes, I would love to hear.
Okay, I will start if that's okay. I love this popcorn thing. Okay, so please, Alexandra, hold the time for me because probably might be that I go over it. I get excited. So, for all of you who don't know me, I grew up in the Basque Country. This is the north of Spain, where nature is well something very special, and it rains a lot. It changes weather, colors, textures, smells all the time. So long before I knew those words about biophilia, for example, my body already understood that nature could do something to us to restore us or regulate us and make us feel more at home. And I have that every time I see mountains. I was grown up in mountains, so every time I see that, I have that feeling. So design was also part from as part as yeah, it was from the beginning of my life. My father was an interior designer, and I grew up drawing, surrounded by plants, by furniture, by visiting all these trade shows of beautiful spaces. So as a child, I was also constantly thinking about interiors, about moving, about putting things nice, and rearranging rooms. My room was all the time being rearranged. It was crazy. So nature and design, both, they have been always together in my life. And as I entered the new life, my professional life, my father didn't want me to be an interior designer, so I had to study business management and marketing before I studied interior design. I entered gradually into another way into the working in business, in working in multinationals. working in fashion after that in retail and commercial environments. So this was all in Belgium. I moved there, and I designed and experienced spaces that were very effective at attracting attention, at selling, at encouraging consumption, at supporting transactions, let's say. But for me, there was not enough. So they could communicate something, but a brand identity, for example, but it was not enough. So something had to happen. And first happened something very bad to me. I had two breakdowns, and I went into a kind of a burnout. And then I found out again nature, and nature healed me. So I went a lot to nature walks. I did a lot of solos, a lot of coaching and healing, inner healing, and this changed the way I saw life and I work. So biophilic design came in my life through sustainability in fashion course, and that's why I started to realize, like, okay, I have to do something. So I moved from Belgium with all my family, with my three beautiful kids. They were thinking that we were crazy. Back to Spain, and started a new life with purpose, with meaning, with really asking ourselves, like, is this the very best that we can do for them and for people ahead and for the life that we are living, with the climate change we're facing, all the biodiversity, and you all know the problems we're facing. There were too many for me to digest, so I was like, there must be something that I can do. So I started designing as a biophilic interior designer, but this was not enough. It was not enough to just design. So the next move was to educate. So I have been there educating many designers, engineers, and all these different people working in this in this industry for already 6 years, and it's been such a great passion. And from there, I have been connecting people and creating connections in the community called Abitramoni ecosystem. And I really believe that we cannot create environments that are not helping people feel good, that are not making people and community feel good. And everything is connected, as we know. So we will go into that later. But I
I
could
love
go on.
that. I love that. I'm just gonna pause really quick just to welcome One Way, and then also in the chat we have people from all over the world joining. It's just beautiful to see. We have Florida, we have Kenya, we have Chile, we have Cincinnati, we have Warsaw, we have Canada, we have Hawaii, we have Chicago, Oregon. Just really fun. But I'm actually gonna go ahead and pass One Way. Do you mind introducing yourself? And
My one way.
yeah.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah,
Hello.
so,
Oh, you can hear me well?
yes, you're good. We've
Yeah.
got
Oh,
you.
perfect. Okay. Well, I was not planning, and this is not a political statement, but I think in the interest of just transition, technology decided that my transition will happen a bit later. But thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be part of this conversation today with my fellow biophilia ladies from all over the world. My name is Wangoe Mwangi. Um, Wow, I think I'm so many things, but I'm the founder of Green Biophilic Living Society. I've been championing the biophilia conversation movement here in Kenya. It's 8 years now, and it's really amazing to see the momentum that has built so far. By background, I'm an interior designer, I'm a green building professional, and an artist in general. And yeah, I think let's continue. We'll pick up from when I get to my main speaking part. But thank you for having me.
We're so happy for you to join us. Yeah, so we're just popcorn styling, and I'm asking how you connect with nature and how you came to find biophilia, and then how that connection has shaped your approach to biophilic design in your work.
So just go ahead. Okay. So wow, how I connect to nature, it really depends with the space I am in. Right now, it's a very busy season of my life because we're preparing for the Africa Biophilia Conference and Expo that is happening next month. So there's quite a lot of office work happening. But then the beauty of where I work And I'd love to just, mention and highlight Wangari Maathai, who championed the, environmental conservation and the taking care of trees here in Kenya, and even won the first, Nobel Peace Prize as an African woman. And because of her work, because of her efforts of championing nature, I work close to Uhuru Park, and Uhuru Park is just a treasure trove of nature within Nairobi CBD, next just 5 minutes from the office. So I spend a lot of time there these days, by the water, under the trees that are so many years old. And it's just beautiful to see the amount of biodiversity within a city, just because someone really pushed and insisted that we can't also build up the space. But then most of the times I'd love to be in the forest again. Karura Forest, still protected and really fought for by Wangari Maathai, and a lot of time swimming and just watching wildlife. How I got into biophilia, that's an interesting conversation. It actually came from a point of stress. And I had just started work, and the work environment was quite stressful. Coming out from campus where it's more of like chill and happy-go-lucky, and then now you have to deliver stuff at work. So the walk during lunchtime really recharged me, and I noticed my afternoons were better. And so, being a curious soul, I just wanted to understand what's the connection with me feeling better after the walk, and me being, much less anxious in the afternoons. And I bumped into the word biophilia, and from there, it's just been a whole shift in the way I think and in the way I see, because it gave me the language and the research for all the beauty that I feel in nature, the relaxation, the happiness. Yeah, and so it just became part of me, and I wanted to share it with the world. Is there a question I've missed?
Love it. It's
Okay,
beautiful.
cool.
I can go next. Um, yeah, I think, I think a lot of us have a similar origins, like very different lives, but we come to it through this similar place, which is another just through line that I think is so cool in this community. Um, Similarly, I came to it through stress and through, you know, some lived experiences that drew me to nature to do healing. And I was a commercial interior designer for many years, and that connection to nature, I wouldn't say it was necessarily the connection. It was knowing I wanted to do something more meaningful, something that seemed like it was helping the planet and people. So I went to graduate school, and I was going to explore kind of sustainability and well-being, but I didn't really know exactly. And my first day there, I met a brand new professor on campus, and I was telling her my interest, and she said, "You heard of biophilic design? It kind of sounds like what you're talking about." She's like, "I don't even know that much about it. It just sounds like what you're saying." And I looked it up, and I was hooked, and that was 2013, and I've done nothing but biophilic design since. I think many people find it the same way. Once you find, you're like, "Oh my gosh, it answers all the things." Like all of these seemingly disparate interests can come together in this beautiful place. So that's what I did my graduate work on, and I started public speaking after I finished school, to a lot of architecture and design firms, and I was speaking about biophilic design. I had some continuing education courses, but what I was noticing is firms that had people who were more nature connected understood the deeper concepts of what this could do. And there were firms kind of as a whole, individuals were different, but firms kind of as a whole who were less nature connected or had less nature connected people who really didn't understand the concepts. And I kept thinking if I could just get them outside to feel nature for 20 or 30 minutes, I bet I could convince them more than any research could ever convince them. And I got to try it, and it seemed like it worked amazing. People were really connecting, so I became a forest therapy guide. And that's a lot of what I do is I want people to go outside, build this personal relationship. One, as we all know, it does so much good for us. And once you get out there in a present way, not on technology or when you're just present in nature, um, it's a profound feeling, and we feel like one way what you mentioned, our stress reduction, we can feel that immediately. But then we also build this deeper connection with nature that makes us want to protect it more. Like it becomes a part of our family. Um, Yeah, and so that's kind of what prompted me. It took so long to learn this material on my own. I felt super lost when I started. 13 years ago, there was a lot less material out there, and it was harder to find people. So I was working in the healthcare design field, and I was feeling um, a lot of stress in the environment. I had a young child at home. I wanted to do something that felt really meaningful and could help other people break into this space, kind of like Nuria. And I decided to start a certification program to teach people. And it's a lot of the nature connected piece of it. The science meets intuition is what I like to call it. Like remembering that we know this somewhere deep down. We just have to be reminded of it and reconnected. And yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
thanks. I'll go. I'll go next. I mean, I suppose I've always been living naturally. When I was born in London, but we used to go to the Highgate Woods. So I used to take my dog and I'd sort of forage with my dog and go and get blackberries and stuff. And my mum was interested in ecology, but we used to holiday in Cornwall. And sort of alongside everything that I was doing, I was an academic, as some of you know. So I got a PhD in Greek and Latin. But we used to holiday in Cornwall, and I would do photography, and I would paint and draw. And my mum used to study like ecology. As I said, she was always interested and encouraged my connection to nature and hedgerows, which is a bit of a campaigning kind of person, I suppose, which is probably why the journal seems to sort of fit something that's in my genes or my DNA. Yeah, so when I used to holiday in Cornwall, I'd come back. I used to sell the prints, there's these beautiful prints of nature, and it was great because it was almost like a manifestation, a validity of my connection to nature, and that feeling that I got. It was kind of like holding it in a space for me. As I said, I'm also an artist, so I sculpt and paint and draw and etch and everything else, and a lot of them are linked to nature. But the whole biophilic story for me came about because, again, people probably know that my dad had Alzheimer's and vascular dementia and would spend his last days looking at ceiling tiles. And as a photographer, I'm thinking, come on, someone can put some, clouds on those ceiling tiles for him to look at, because his frame of reference, it just breaks my heart to think about somebody with dementia who's like, just seeing white squares going, where the hell am I? I mean, what's going on with his brain? Couldn't do anything about that. Same time, mum rushed in with the flu epidemic, looking at a pinboard and a dustbin. I took my pictures of nature and just to brighten the room, to be fair, just it was something that I just needed to do. And, she just got a stable, but she wasn't responding to drugs and anything. So I took these pictures in, and the next time I went back, she got a bit brighter, and she started responding to the drugs. The blood pressure came down, and at the end of that week, she walked out. So from having going to lose her to, actually recovery. And I'd heard about the word biophilia, and I thought, there's this effect. There's this just a view of nature. What is this effect? Having been an academic, I just needed to go and research it, not just go, oh, this is great, this is hearsay. I wanted to find out what it was. So I missed a bit out, but I was also running a London newspaper. When I left academia, went into editorial and marketing and PR. And I thought, if we can control the media, if we can use media for good, then how about augmenting this, the benefits of nature connection, so that, and I want my legacy to be that nobody should have to die in a white box. No child should have to study in a white box. It's like, no, and I will do anything in my power to help spread the love, spread the word, and augment voices of great practice, positive news stories, because that's what people listen to. Yeah, but nature still maintains my thing, and picnics is my favorite thing. So barefoot somewhere with a picnic, yeah.
I love
Who
that.
needs a support?
Yeah, we need much more of that, even in the United States as well. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story. That must have been very difficult to go through. I guess I'll close this out on this question. So, my journey into biophilic design really, well, let me actually time myself as well so I don't go over. But it really started with this term green withdrawal. And I grew up in Hawaii, and nature wasn't really something I had to seek out. It was just part of my everyday world. And I think I saw someone in the chat from Hawaii too. You could probably vouch for that. And then when I moved to the mainland US for high school, I was suddenly surrounded by like concrete and steel. And I was like, okay, what is this? And I was like, oh, this is green withdrawal, and you have to go out into nature. You have to visit nature. It's kind of like separated. And it just kind of blew my mind a little bit. And I always come back to this idea for like repeated, sustained interaction and engagement with nature. It's very well known and studied now, but nature isn't just like an aesthetic luxury. It's literally a biological imperative, and it's a fundamental requirement for human health. And this realization kind of shifted my perspective, and it drove me to study environmental design. And then I developed my own kind of ethos of biophilic design, which is to weave together the landscapes of human and nature for the benefit of both. And so all of this kind of shapes my approach to biophilic design. The idea that we shouldn't just be going visiting nature in an isolated park. Nature isn't something that we just go over there. It's like over there. We shouldn't really be using plastic plants probably as superficial decoration, stuff like that. We have to fundamentally integrate living systems into our daily habitats so that we're actually inhabiting nature and creating these regenerative spaces where we can thrive together with our ecosystems and our fellow insects and our animals and all of that. And I know Nicole talks about animals' well-being and stuff like that too a lot. And then now as a mother, my mission is like even more deeply personal. And created kind of like a sense of urgency. And so in my day job at Google as a program manager, something shifted inside of me when I had my daughter, and I looked at, the world that she's in. And I really wanted her to feel those same things that I felt growing up in Hawaii. And so this really intense surge of urgency kind of led me to create that Learn Biophilic Design course, because my own experience of green withdrawal made me realize that our connection with nature is a biological imperative. It's not just a luxury. And I just wanted to make this idea accessible to everyone as much as possible, not just specialized architects, because I went to architecture school. And so that we can all learn to weave nature into the DNA of spaces where we live and work, essentially. But then generally, I just find nature has so many beautiful, rich metaphors and wisdom constantly. You could look at anything and like find something truly profound or deep and like a life lesson. One of my favorite is that, nature needs stress. It doesn't just withstand it, it actually requires it to grow stronger. So there was this experiment called Biosphere 2, and they grew these big trees in a windowless greenhouse, and they grew really big, but then they collapsed under their own weight because they were shielded from the elements of nature and from the wind. And that necessary adversity was required to develop that structural stress wood and deeper roots. So it's just like, I love that idea, right? That we can use volatility and friction to adapt and evolve and grow those strong roots and grow stronger. And I just find that every time I look into nature, you find a lesson or something very beautiful or interesting. Wonderful. Okay, so I want to shift to one of our last questions today, and then we're going to open up for some questions in the chat. So definitely keep asking and adding your questions in there. We're going to try to spend a couple of minutes at the end. But I kind of want to shift into women's unique role in biophilic design, right? So this is Women in Biophilic Design. And, we're doing much more than designing, we are stewarding. And so how does your specific practice embody more of a matriarchal approach? So prioritizing care, intuition, deep listening over competition or extraction or control. In your view, what is the unique wisdom that women bring to the table that is essential for healing our built environments as we look at generations coming after us? What is that seed, that we hope that they inherit from what we're building today? So, yeah, this is a large question. Feel free to speak to whatever parts call to you most.
Actually, can I start that? I would love to. So I was thinking about the first time I got to know Nuria, and also Alexandra, I think you too. Nuria and I knew each other from Living Future Europe for a little bit, and we decided to have a call together. And we found out on the call that we were both working on our own individual courses that could be seen as competition. We were trying to inhabit the same space. We found out later we're doing it in a very similar way, and agreed to not be competitors. We said there's room for both of us here. We can help each other. We can help uplift other people who are coming into the education world. We want to see this work happen everywhere. and different people are going to resonate with different voices and different styles of education. And a similar thing happened with Alexandra reached out to me. It was like, welcome to the club. We wanted to, I think it's this very intentional way of trying to be not the way the rest of society tells us we're supposed to be. Take as much as you can, hold it yourself. We want to nurture, we want to help others succeed in this space. And it's a wonderful, I have found most of the people in this space to be very similar. There was something else I was going to say too, but I think that story, I tell people that a lot because I think that's kind of the heart of this work. We cannot do it alone. No species stands alone out there. We are interconnected beings. And with our work, it takes, I was a commercial interior designer. You can't just design an entire space individually. Products come from places, and you need architects and designers and landscape architects and engineers and the whole thing, that all of us need to come together to really be able to design the spaces that Alexandra so eloquently talked about. And yeah, I'll pause on. And I think also, this was the other, also being a mother, and how difficult it can be to get access to nature on a day-to-day basis. She goes to school, they get a 15-minute, recess on a playground of wood chips. And, as somebody, like, I try to be outside as much as I can with her to help her find that connection, because we do lose it. And that's really incredibly sad to me. So I think, yeah, I'll stop there. I want to hear everybody else's.
Okay, may I take over? Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for that question. And yes, I remember the time we talked about that, and it was like, that's for me like the normal thing to do, to be yourself, to be brought up with your talents, but you have a soul and you have talent for something, and we are all unique and special. And that's not something that we are brought up at school, neither at any company, nothing. So we are the ones who are, yeah, always like competing with each other. And when I started to learn about biophilic design and understanding what actually inner connection and connection to nature this was a bigger world, something much bigger, and started to weave all that together. And like what you said, Nicole, we don't need to compete here. We all have unique wisdom. We all have something that we can give, and we are all good listeners. I think that that's something very, very essential here. We listen, and then we act, and not the other way around. And that's how, us as designers or biophilic design professionals, that's one of the things that I always say: deep listening. Listen to the land, listen to ourselves, listen to the kids, listen to the cosmos, listen to what is around us, makes us connect with the purpose and with ourselves. And I completely agree with what you explained, Nicole, Alexandra, about like we have to have that stress to evolve. Yes, everything is connected. So even a tree, and I always give the tree example because my second surname is a tree, a maple tree. So I always have the tree. I have the flourish tree model in my company to make people thrive and uplift. But the tree is in constant connection with the mycelium, with the soil, with the roots, with the weather, with everything that's around. And it's not only itself or herself, I call it her, is connected with the bees. There is a whole thing going around a tree, and that's how we should see. And there is no competition here. The tree is not competing. It's just one of the major things that trees and plants do is give back to the soil as much as possible that other plants are going to grow. How beautiful is that? So that's how I see it as flourishing through relationship. So I always bring that example of a tree to the table, and this is us women working together and bringing the best of ourselves and each other to the table. So yeah, thank you, Nicole, for bringing that again. And I had the same with the same with Ness, and the same with Alexandra, the same with Huawei. This is how women in biophilia are connected. And that's something you don't learn. We have it. We can reconnect with that. It starts with ourselves. So yeah, that's the message I want to bring here.
Do you mind if I add to that?
Of course, go.
Just another layer of the sandwich. But you mentioned that, you know, sort of nature is collaborative, and that's it for me. That's so much what, from, you know, how I've kind of built the journal up, is that it's, you know, when people submit their articles in, I nurture the articles. You know, it's like the same thing with the forest. The forest, there's many trees and there's plants and there's holly and there's undergrowth and there's little tiny weeds and flowers and ivy, and everything has a different energy and a different kind of purpose and a perspective as well in a forest. And so when people submit articles, it's the same thing. I let the voice, I don't rewrite anything, I let the voice sit as it is. And I think biophilic design should reflect those same principles as well. And I think that's, you know, we're talking about sort of, you know, male, female kind of things here. But I think maybe that's what, you know, what you mentioned about deep listening as well. Listening as well is a design tool that we do. Some of the best, sort of most successful designs seem to be where they've listened to the people using the space, where you go in and you actually talk to the users and you have empathy and you go, well, how are you going to be using the space? You know, and also I think one of the things that threads through all of our work here is that the next generation, you know, deserves better, really deserves, you know, more sustainable buildings, a better world, better places to learn, live, survive, play. And you know, I think having maybe more of a female, you know, maternal, whatever you want to call it, however, you know, perspective on design, and lends maybe our design practice to be a bit more empathetic in that way, to nurture, so that we don't leave things in a more harmful way, so that the next generation is cared for, really. And that's something that maybe is really passionate within each of us, whether we have children or not, you know, whether we just care for animals or care for people or care for ourselves or our family or our mothers or whatever it is. That is probably something that's deeply inherent in every living being, but I think particularly within women's souls. So yeah, so that's kind of, there's quite a lot of other things I want to say, but I'm conscious of time, so I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay. Well, for me, I think my response to that question is, when you get into the journey of biophilic design, when you discover biophilia and you start reading about it, you realize the abundance that nature offers. You realize the uniqueness of the different plants, rocks, animals that exist in nature, but then again, the relationship that exists within all these different species, all these different types of trees and birds and bees, and there's harmony, there's a balance, you know. And I think it rubs off on you. And this element of competition sometimes starts to feel unnatural because, like, for example, I got to know Nuria quite some years back online. And again, we knew each other, I think, because of the courses. And the first conversation was, how do we upscale this? How do we do this together? You know, how do we make this way of living, this abundant way of living and thinking? Because biophilia is not just tied to architecture. Architecture is one of the containers. Biophilia is life. It's the food, it's the clothes, it's everything. So we were thinking, how do we upscale this together? And we've been in spaces where we felt the energy was off, or rather a space where there's just extractiveness that's coming out, and you feel it and you realize it. I don't know if men feel this. I can only speak for me as a woman, but I think that aspect of listening is coming out from everybody. And probably because of the nurturing element, you have to, know what could be the problem with your child when they're crying. And maybe if it's not even an actual child, some of these ideas are children. You need to listen and understand, why is something not working? How should I go about it? So I think coming into the awareness that we are in relationship with each other, with other organisms, and just being aware of that. Sorry, my mind is shifting to so much that's happening. Yesterday, we had the first women's circle in Nairobi, and we've not done this before, but there's just a hunger for community. There's a hunger for women to come together, because I think we've been hearing over and over and over again that something is off. And for me, it creates, a point of anger, to be honest, because I keep thinking to myself, since 1972, 1989, 1992, there's someone called Wangari Maathai who was fighting for protection of nature. For how long are we going to just listen and listen and listen? We need to do something about it, but we need to do it in a way that is impactful and in a way that leaves, the next generations with a better life. Because for how long are we going to be advocating for people to live in harmony with nature? Why don't people seem to be understanding it? But I think women sort of hear that better. And when you look at GBLS, for example, Green Biophilic Living, the space is like 90% women, and they're really really supportive, and they really supported to push this message of biophilia, to make it known, to make it accessible, to make it understandable. And yes, you'll still find men within the space. They come in from an element of protection, because again, when you're nurturing, when you're taking care of something, you have to protect it from all this sort of like extractive forces, sometimes. So I think at the end of the day, yes, we have an element of nurturing, a deeper element of listening and seeing interconnection between different relationships, because of the amount of work that is handled, even from, looking at our ancestors. They were caretaker of the lands and the granaries, and there was so much that was being done. So I think it's inherently in us to see things in systemic ways, and it's inherently in us to sort of like be the leaders or be the champions of this sort of biophilia, environmental conscious movements. And I really hope we will get to a point where this becomes a solid way of life, and anchored in policy and anchored in just how we move forward. But yeah, in terms of matriarchy, yes, that is how at GBLS, the people, the representation of the women in Nairobi as well, women are really awakened to the fact that there's a connection between nature and sort of like, things like corruption, things like poverty. There's a huge awareness about the interconnection of all this. So yeah, that's what I'd like to share for now. I think this can go really deep. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. Like, there's just never ending. There's such a big, so many answers to this, and just biophilia is such a big topic, and that's why I think it overwhelms some folks. But I mean, in my opinion, it really can be applied to every level and scale, right? Yourself, your home, your community. You just keep going out now in the universe. Like, so we understand it's a big topic. Yeah. When I think of the unique wisdom women bring to healing our built environments, I really always think of like beauty. And I think the listening was really interesting. Some slowness, wonder, awe. I think these are somewhat feminine characteristics that align with biophilic design. And actually, biophilic design has principles and elements and frameworks that leverage these. And so I really feel like we need to just design beauty for beauty's sake. But for other folks that need like the hard data and the frameworks and everything, there is a lot of information and data that back up these more ethereal kind of beauty, wonder, awe things, right? And when we think about our modern kind of machine speed world that's getting even more fast every day, we're constantly being pushed to prioritize efficiency and automation and financial bottom line. And this is kind of a mechanistic paradigm, which I kind of talk about in the history of biophilic design in my course. But beauty is frequently dismissed as like a superficial luxury and like a nice to have amenity or mere decoration or something like that, which is just hollows it. And this dismissal, I feel like, also isn't accidental sometimes, right? I do think beauty is sometimes undervalued because it's deeply aligned with like the feminine and the matriarchal, and in a traditional system that we've been talking about, extraction, competition, control, these softer nurturing elements like care and intuition and deep listening and beauty are pushed, and we're taught to value spaces for how they produce and provide rather than how they nourish. I know I internalized that as a productive capitalist worker. Here I am working in tech. But, when we embrace like a matriarchal approach and that stewardship, we realize that beauty is not just this aesthetic add-on. And I actually talked with Dr. Richard Taylor a couple weeks ago, so you can look in the history of the LinkedIn page. And he's a physicist and leading research in fractal fluency. And he points out that nature's beauty isn't just like some ethereal, subjective thing, right? It's actually very powerful, and it's a physiological force. And our visual systems, we've spent over 600 million years evolving to process this rich, complex, beautiful geometries and data of the natural world. And so when we are deprived of this natural beauty, our bodies operate under chronic stress. And conversely, when we're exposed to the beauty found in nature, it creates this subconscious physiological resonance, and it can drop our stress by levels up to like 60% in milliseconds. He did a study with NASA working with astronauts using fractals. And we literally require beauty of the natural world to keep our human operating system maintained and functioning perfectly and correctly. And so that's why beauty to me is just very inescapable, and it's a massive part of biophilic design, and it's so essential. But there are actually a lot of very rigorous building standards that also use this, right? So Living Building Challenge, they have a beauty and biophilia imperative. Stephen Keller added and codified aesthetic value in one of his core tenets of typology of biophilia values, recognizing nature as like a necessary source of physical beauty and artistic inspiration and physical and visual pleasure. And so I just love that. And so if we really want to heal our built environments, we really have to stop apologizing for demanding beauty and just judging it as like this hollow thing when it actually isn't at all. And we must reclaim beauty as a powerful matriarchal, a little bit feminine force, and it actually is a high performing biological asset. So off my soapbox. Okay, looking ahead. So right now would be a great time to add your questions right now into the comments. And I don't know if any of the experts on the call have seen any questions come in that they're like, ooh, I would love to answer that. So if there is, I would like to give space to that now. But if not, then I can also hand pick a couple. And then I want to give everyone like a minute or two to talk about what's going on, what they've created, whether it's a course or an event coming up. And then we're going to close out because we're running out of time. But yeah, was there any questions from any of the panelists that stuck out to you that you would like to jump in?
There were so many good questions. Now I can't find them all.
Yeah, there were. Well, maybe we could do this one way, if you don't mind. What do you see as the biggest barrier to mainstreaming biophilic design in Africa?
I look at it as a quote unquote barrier and also opportunity. I would say data, because as I've mentioned before, biophilia is not something new here. Biophilia is a way of life our ancestors have lived. They have built with all the 6 elements. They have built with the 15 patterns of biophilic design. It just wasn't called, it didn't have the name biophilia. But then again, because our buildings need to reflect our identity, they need to reflect our culture, Kenya needs to feel like Kenya from where I live and work in. But then we need solid sort of like data repositories that have all this, data of the elements, the deepness, the colors, the intentionality, why were the houses round, how was the energy moving in the space, the courtyards, how are they done, so that when we're doing biophilic design here in Africa, it's actually grounded in Africa, you know? So I think the biggest barrier and still the biggest opportunity is for sure getting data in the different countries. And this is, I mean, this is massive work of all the architectural stuff that existed, especially even in interior design. Since I'm an interior designer, getting to understand the elements that were used, how, for example, bringing animals indoors, there was a lot of motifs, just reconnecting back to that. And then now tapping tech, tapping modernity, tapping the modern day and times and the graphic designers we have and the artists, and sort of like recreating or re-centering our culture and our identity back into something new right now. So there's that. And then also the understanding of biophilia, because when people hear biophilia as the word, they keep asking me, bio what? Why does that sound so scientific? It sounds so what? But then when you explain, they understand that, oh my God, that's how I feel when I walk, you know, under the trees. That's how I feel when I go to the ocean. So that awareness of this biophilia is actually something, you know, creating that mass impact awareness. Of course, it doesn't just happen once. It needs quite a lot of support for it to really be understood. And I'd love for it to be understood because biophilia has incorporated a lot of research. There's a lot of indicators that have been used since the 60s to understand it. So helping to translate that science into something that's easy and connects to the lived experience is sort of a barrier, but still an opportunity. Yeah.
I love that. Did a panelist see any other question that jumped out to them that they wanted to respond to? If not, I found one, I think. Okay.
Go ahead.
So anyone feel free to jump in here, but question for the panel, do you see a link to architects, stakeholders, and designers? How can they support decisions for better environmental development and probably, you know, biophilic design? So any recommendation is appreciated.
I would love to jump with that one. And this is part of that system waiver and the work that I'm doing and the why of one of the things, Mind Body Space. It's to find out, as already one way mentioned, evidence, have data. It's really mandatory for us to explain to those stakeholders, to explain the economics of why this is making more money or less money, or why is it a good investment for the future. So data is important. All the work that is being done with neuroarchitecture, together with the embodiment and the somatic work that we need to do as designers, plus then the ancient wisdom, weaving all that together, I think that's where we have to address. So not only data, because I always say, if we only look at data, we're just scientists, and yeah, science, don't get me wrong, is very good, but we need to be a bit ahead of that and always inquiring a bit farther. And then using things that have been used in 1,000, 2,000 years ago. Why not? If they were used, why did they use them? What was what were the benefits of doing that? So incorporating all that, and then giving those KPIs, key performance indicators, to each of the topics that we need. So depending if you have a hotel, so they probably are looking at how many times people are coming back to the hotels, or if there are schools, or depending on the sector, trying to find those KPIs and weave that in between. And I'm saying again, not everything is data, not everything is economic, but we have to start somewhere. So if we can convince people and talk in the same language, that's a very good start. And then you move forward. And I think that's what we see, that evidence is important. The work that new architecture is doing is important. Environmental psychology, all those data are being seen like, okay, now we can measure apples to apples. I think you say it like that, apple to pears, or I don't know. Each language has a different comparison. But that's something to understand. So try to talk in the language of the people you are sending the message to. So if this is an investor, talk in their language and translate biophilia into their language. That's it. It sounds, yeah, it's as simple as that.
And I do think there's if I can add, because I saw a number of questions about education, and I think education is massive. That's why we're educators here, because we see the value of, if the architect, let's say a client says, I've heard of this idea of biophilic design, it sounds really wonderful, and you can't find an architect, an engineer, a designer who knows anything about it. The outcome, though they may try, will not be, it's like deep sustainable or regenerative architecture. If you come to it with no knowledge of regenerative architecture, it's going to be really hard to pull off a well done project that doesn't cost a lot in time and money. So there's a lot about having this expertise where it becomes intuitive, and having a team of people who can understand and apply that, so that you can work with the client to get these outcomes, these key performance indicators, all the return on investment stuff. There's so much research there, but if we don't have the knowledge, if it feels too overwhelming to do, that's just this huge barrier there. And I think education in the university system, integrated in all of these programs, not just biophilic design, but within all of these areas that touch, urban planning and landscape architecture and lighting design, all of this matters in how these projects come together. I'd love to see education show up at the university and biophilic design at a much greater level than it's there. People are doing it, but it's still limited in where and how it's happening.
I mean, yeah, Nicole, you wanted to study it and you didn't really find it in university, right? So you kind of created your
I made up my own.
Yeah.
I ended up studying human ecology in a design studies program. But I really made it up on my own by seeking out guidance from experts that I could find. I read, every piece of research, I read every book I could find, and I kind of made it up. There's so much more resources available now, but I mean, that was part of my course, was like, I just didn't want people to have to struggle to find it as much as I had to struggle.
Yeah, I had the same experience in architecture school. I got a sustainable design degree, but yet I didn't feel like it was very heavily on the sustainable side. And I learned green roofs, and I was like, wait. And then I kind of went from there. Once I figured out what a green roof was, I was like, oh my gosh, you could put nature into the cities and everything. And yeah, it just went from there. Vanessa, was there anything that you wanted to talk on some of those questions?
Yeah, there's a couple of things just to add to that, actually. I mean, just obviously I know I'm banging on about the journal, but the reason I created each one with a different theme is that, I mean, like, this one's the landscape edition. I mean, it's massive, it's like full of things, but there's case studies and science behind biophilic design in each one, and we've done it so that if there's a designer that's trying to help explain to a client, we need biophilic design for neurodiversity, or I want to improve the lighting, the circadian rhythm, and trying to articulate it, basically just get the light edition or get the sound edition or get the architecture edition and just throw it in front of them. I mean, if you've got the reason we print it like this is so that it looks sturdy and chunky, so that visually, it's all psychology, right? So it's when they receive it, they go, oh yeah, okay, this must be like a really good thing. So, and then we're doing the monographs as well. So somebody mentioned about the with the different heat in the country, and do we need like different shading and planting and water recovery and things. So again, because what I'm trying to do is just accelerate the knowledge and try and join all the bits up, we've got this new series of monographs, which this one's about Alive Labs. It's about a new moss cladding, but it's innovation. There's lots of innovation in this space happening. And if anyone is working on any innovation or knows anyone that's doing an innovation, please put them my way. Because if we can produce more of these and put them in front of architects and interior designers and anyone else, to make them buy the better option, not the plastic option as we've just been talking about, then yeah. I mean, suds. I mean, we're talking to people at Parliament, so just very quickly. But if every single driveway for every new build house had a runoff rather than concrete, just imagine what that would be, and it would go into the water table as opposed to things. It's about designing with a different way. So yeah,
the journal is really as good as what she said. So if you haven't gotten it yet, go do that.
Yeah, with that, I do want to wrap up, and we're going to try to jump in the comments and answer your questions directly. But I think pretty much all of us have a course, and Vanessa has a publication. So if we can just go round table in 1 minute on how folks can find you, what your offerings are, that would be fantastic.
Well, I might as well go first with Journal of Biophilic Design. I'm going to put a link in there so you can download a free copy of the materials one. We've got podcasts, you can find it on Spotify. Please get involved. We've got events, round tables, and so we're going to be 3 days at Future Build next year as well. Loads of awards. So, we've got hospital design, architecture. We've got 2 of those issues that are there as well. So please connect with me, and I'm always looking for content. So if you'd like to write for us, then also reach out. Thank you. And thanks, Alexandra, again.
Thank you. I will go now. So we have this certification course, which is Design Spaces That Heal, Inspire, and Uplift Lives. It's about implementing biophilic design, but it's much wider than that. It's a mentoring program where participants are going to complete the methodology behind these flourish tree models. So it's the inner, the outer, how everything is interconnected, how we listen to our customers, how we listen to the land, and then how do we apply it and how we pitch it. So it has all the different, from the inner all the way to putting out there and putting all those economical values also. So that's our flagship program. And we also have a community called Biophilic Ecosystem, where all these people that have been following the programs throughout all these years are there in that community, and also other people from different disciplines from all around the world. So that's our Biophilic ecosystem. And for those who want to go deeper or individually, I am mentoring designers, practitioners, one-to-one on a daily basis. So that's how we are doing. And be mindful, next year we will always have this Mind Body Space 2027. So we will start talking about that in a few weeks again. So thank you so much, Alexandra, and ladies. This is so amazing. I was writing down like, I could talk about that and that and that. There's so much to talk about. But I only want to say one word. There is hope. There is really hope. And if we collaborate, we're going to make it. That's how I see it. So yeah, thank you.
I'll add on to Nuria's hope. I have this quote behind me: "We are the ones we have been waiting for," and I truly believe that. So that's why I have it here. So every time I'm on a call, I see it behind me. It's a good reminder. So I'm with the Biophilic Design Institute, and I have a course. I call it Biophilic Fundamentals because, as you've heard from us, we've all been in this for a decade or more, and there's still so much to learn. Currently the course is a 3-month kind of live cohort, but I'm building a self-paced version to accommodate more time zones and people who work, particular hours and can't make a live course. Actually very similar to Nuria, it's, there's a lot of the science behind it, but a lot of the intuition as well. The business case, all of that kind of stuff that we talked about that makes so much sense for how we talk to our clients. But there's a lot of the inner work that I call the kind of the personal biophilia, how we connect with the world around us and really feeling this deeply, and how do we want to show up and be in the world in this way, because the way somebody does biophilic design, somebody else is not going to be the way that I do it. Each person here is doing it in a slightly different way based on our values and our lived histories, and so helping people to find their way forward there. And I'm just want to thank everybody here, because like Nuria said, we could have done this for it's solid 8 hours and still had more to talk about.
Maybe that's what we need.
100%. Wow, three offerings. First of all, the course. I think everybody, yes, looked for a course but didn't find one, and sort of created one. So we have a course on biophilia, but this is anchored from an African lens. So looking at the African indigenous knowledge and the way of building, connecting it to the different elements of biophilic design, and also bringing an element of sensory within the course. So integrating aspects of smell, taste, touch in a very, very interesting way. And also speaking about this themes that we need to anchor, in our life moving forward. So you'll find it's been sort of like divided into 6 weeks, but then throughout the weeks you're going through themes of healing, identity and memory, building for imagination, all through biophilia, building for belonging. And it's a very, very interesting course, so you're open to taking it. And there's quite a lot of interesting meandering within the course as well. There are moments of self-reflection using cards from nature or cards designed in alignment with nature. We'll share the details, or you can find it on greenbiophilicliving.com. You'll find the course there. Then there's a community, which is Green Biophilic Living Society, where we have people from all over the world really supporting in terms of whether it's research. Right now, all the efforts are geared towards the upcoming Africa Biophilia Conference and Expo. But it's a community of like-minded people. They're from all spheres and all professions. We have people from the medical space, people from regenerative farming. It's just an interesting community, and we're also trying to create a framework that can really, use biophilia as a tool to just bring everybody together. And lastly, there's ABBC and E, that's Africa Biophilic Living Conference and Expo, that's coming up next month on August 13th and 14th, where we've been able to bring all these different people together. The architectural bodies, leading architectural bodies in Kenya who want to integrate biophilia, interior design bodies, companies who are actually doing biophilia but never really called it biophilia, glass blowers, glass makers. The government is there having endorsed and really supporting this conversation as well, and looking into anchorage in policy. All the ladies in the call are big supporters, from Alexandra, Vanessa Champion. So it's really going to be an interesting space that is very global, very regional, very continental. And we're inviting you, come to Kenya, grab your tickets. It's going to be an amazing experience. And lastly, if you'd love to connect, I'm on LinkedIn, Wangoi Mwangi, or find GBLS, Green Biophilic Living Society. So thank you so
Love
much,
it.
Alexandra. This was amazing.
Yeah, I'll be sure to drop all of these links. I guess my quick spiel would be I would invite you to join the Biophilic design community here on LinkedIn if you're not already a part of our community. And then you can check out my Introduction to Biophilic Design course. It's an accumulation of what I didn't learn in architecture school that I kind of had to teach myself, similar to what Nicole's experience was. It's for enthusiasts and professionals. It covers the rich history of biophilic design and some design and mechanistic worldview that I talked about earlier. Some broader design history, goes through data, foundational benefits of biophilia, ends with concrete frameworks and patterns and how you can apply that to your ideas and projects. But all right, I think we need to do this again. Generally, if you're interested in being a speaker, if there's a topic you're interested in talking about or that you want to see us talk about or me talk about, feel free to reach out to me. I just want to thank you again for our speakers for your generosity and your wisdom and your sisterhood today. I really feel like this is the beginning of something very special. And thank you all to the community for joining us and being so active in the comments and tuning in from all over the world. It was really a beautiful event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.